So this is number 4 on worksheet 53. My first triangle is my pre-image, right? So all I got to do is plot those points nice and easy. -9, +1 is point Q. -5, -3 is my point R, and -9, -7, there's my point S. Make sure on the test tomorrow you're using your ruler to make nice straight triangles. Boom. And that's my triangle number 1 right there. All right, there's my pre-image. That's where we're starting at. And the first thing we're going to do this time is a translation. We're going to translate this triangle 3 units to the right and 9 units up. That's going to get me triangle number 2. Can someone help me out? What would the algebraic rule here be? X plus 3, comma, y plus 9. How do we know we're doing plus for both of those? Because we're going right and we're going up. Right is positive on the x. Up is positive on the y. So let's go ahead and do that. I'm going to count here from Q. 3 units to the right. 1, 2, 3. 9 units up. Boom, boom, boom. All the way up there to 10. There's my Q prime at -6, comma, 10. The other way you can do this, as opposed to counting on the graph, is by taking point R, -5, -3, right? I'm going to add 3 to my x coordinate. -5 plus 3 gives me -2. And I'm going to add 9 to my y coordinate. -3 plus 9 gives me 6. Now I can just plot the point, -2, comma, 6, and label it R prime. Okay, if I go to S, -9 plus 3 is -6. And -7 plus 9 gives me +2. -6, 2. There's my S prime. And again, I'm going to use my ruler to make nice straight lines, connecting all those dots together, giving me my first image triangle of Q prime, R prime, S prime. I'm going to put a little number 2 with a circle in there, and there's my translation. We didn't flip our triangle, we didn't turn our triangle, we just did a slide across the graph. I know it's kind of hard to see that orange there. Hopefully that makes it a little better. To get triangle 3, we're going to reflect across, this time, the y-axis. So what's my rule going to be if I'm reflecting across the y-axis? -x, comma, y. Remember, if we reflect over the y, we flip the sign of my x. It's the important thing to remember with reflections. So I'm going to use the rule for this one. Again, if you're more comfortable counting and then keep counting, going up, counting, and then counting the same amount, perfect. Definitely do that. It would look something like this. We're using triangle 2 to get triangle 3. I'm going to go to Q prime. Here's my y-axis that I'm reflecting across, and I'm going to count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 spaces. I hit that line. I'm going to count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 more spaces. Now I've got Q double prime at 6, comma, 10. Now if we look from Q prime to Q double prime, what did we change there? We made the negative 6 a positive 6 because that's what our rule is telling us to do. We flip the sign of my x, negative 6 turns to 6, y stays the same, 10 stays as 10. So I'm just going to flip all my x's. Negative 2 turns to 2, negative 6 turns to 6, and my y coordinates 6 and 2 stay exactly the same. I'm showing you both ways to do it, counting on the graph versus applying the rule to your coordinates so that you can pick which way works best for you. I don't care which one you do, as long as you do it right. There's my triangle number 3. And with this one, because we reflected, we see that we've flipped our triangle across that line of reflection, known as the y-axis in this case. So there's triangle number 3. Moving on to triangle number 4, we've got to rotate 90 degrees clockwise about the origin. Rotate 90 degrees clockwise about the origin. What's my rule going to be for this transformation? If I'm going 90 degrees, I know I'm going to have to swap my y and my x. Perfect. Thank you, Roz. Y, comma, negative x for a 90 degree clockwise rotation. That's rule number 1 from our notes. So with this one, again, you could use your slide if you want to. If you're more comfortable with that, perfectly fine. Definitely do that. It would be more accurate, though, for us to apply the rule because, as you guys know, the expo markers are pretty thick. It's hard to get a nice precise point or a nice thin line when we're drawing those. So we might end up in kind of a slightly wrong spot. Here's the easiest way to do it. If we just apply this rule, right? The rule tells me my x coordinates 6, 2, and 6 are going to get flipped and thrown to the back. So 6 now goes to the back and becomes negative 6. 2 goes to the back and becomes negative 2. And 6 goes to the back and becomes negative 6. My y coordinates don't get flipped, but they do get brought to the front. 10 goes to the front, 6 goes to the front, 2 goes to the front. Now, without using my slide, without using an expo marker or anything, I've got my coordinates. Now I just plot them. 10, negative 6. 10, negative 6 is my Q triple prime. 6, negative 2 is my R triple prime. And 2, negative 6 is my S triple prime. There's my triangle number 4. And with this one, we can see we've definitely changed our orientation. We've taken my green triangle number 3, rotated it down into this position at number 4. Finally, my last triangle, triangle number 5, is a dilation by a scale factor of 1/2. My rule is going to be x times 1/2, comma, y times 1/2. Is our triangle 5 going to be smaller or larger after this dilation? Smaller. We're going to get smaller. If we're dilating by a fraction, we're going to get a triangle that is a fraction of the size. We're almost done. Please stay with me. Okay? What I'm going to do is I'm going to take my triple prime coordinates and multiply each of those numbers by 1/2. We could also think of it like divide by 2, if that's easier. So my blue coordinates, 10, negative 6. If I cut those numbers in half, half of 10 is 5. Half of negative 6 is negative 3. 5, negative 3. Right there is my Q quadruple prime. 4 little apostrophes on there. 6, negative 2, when I cut in half, turns into 3, negative 1. There's my R quadruple prime. And finally, S, 2, negative 6. I cut 2 in half and get 1. I cut negative 6 in half and get negative 3. 1, negative 3 is my S quadruple prime. Line those points up. And I've got a nice, tiny little triangle for my last transformation, triangle number 5. And that's what we should get there on number 4. If we take it slow and we go step by step, it shouldn't be too bad. Right? That took us 10 minutes to get through. There's only going to be 2 of them on the test tomorrow. So if you were able to get through this whole worksheet by yourself, congrats, you just took the test twice on your own, basically. So that's what we can expect to see tomorrow. You're going to get points for your rules. They've got to be right. You're going to get points for your coordinates. They've got to be exact, right? If Q double prime is 610 and you've got it at 5'9", that's wrong. Your triangles have to be graphed correctly. They have to be straight, and they have to be numbered 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, as well as labeled with each and every point. All 15 points have to be labeled on your graph. They don't have to be color coordinated or anything, but they do have to be numbered, labeled, and straight. Any questions about what the expectations are for the test tomorrow? Nope? All right.
Wait, you said there's only going to be 2 things on the test?
Yeah, so if you look at the front of the worksheet, you're basically looking at the test.
So what?
Plus the 10 multiple choice questions on the computer. Sorry. What were we?
What's most of the test going to be?
Good question. So let's say this is part 2 of the test, right? Obviously different numbers, different transformations, all that. This portion of the test is going to be out of 30. 30. So 15 for the first question, 15 points. 15 points for the second question, right? Then on the Chromebook, you're going to have 10 multiple choice questions, each worth 2 points out of 20. So just like all of our tests, the total score is going to be out of 50. So you're going to get 20 points for the multiple choice, 30 points for the free response graphing portion, added together in the gradebook as a 50-point assessment, just like we always have. Yeah, I mean, if you consider this one question, then yeah, that's 12 questions total. But, 1, 2, 3, 4 different transformations, the rules, the coordinates, the graphing, the labeling, the numbering. 12 questions is kind of keeping it light. But yeah, it won't be too bad. What's up?
If the multiple choice question is graph?
No, it's going to have graphs on them, but you won't have to graph anything. It's more like, it'll say, oh, here's the rule. Which of these graphs represents the rule shown? Or here's a graph. Which of these rules represents the graph that's shown? So you've got to be able to count and be like, okay, x plus 5, y minus 4, whatever it is. Yeah, great question.